All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Bruce from the Epic Experiment. Merry Christmas if you celebrated Christmas. Happy New Year, because 2026 is just around the corner. We're back. We've been a couple weeks off with some family time, but another deck, another week. We've been talking a lot about a lot of my other decks I've shown are decks that are, let's say, pretty table friendly. All right, they're not going to upset the table or going to make everybody upset with you. I have some higher power level decks that could potentially cheese off a table, and this is a classic one. This is Prossh, Skyraider of Kher. So 3 black, red, green for a 5/5 legendary creature dragon with flying. When you cast Prossh, Skyraider of Kher, you create X01 red kobold creature tokens named Kobolds of Kher Keep with X, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast Prossh. Sacrifice another creature. Proch gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This deck I have here in front of you is a bracket 3 to maybe a bracket 4 if you want it to be like particularly adventurous. It's probably a bracket 3, but it's annoying because it has a combo kill in it, or a couple of them actually. That if your play table is not into combo kills, this is not the thing. Basically, the basic tenets of this deck is this at its core is a sacrifice deck, an aristocrat style deck, where you are looping Prosh through a bunch of different means, and then you're going to eventually run over the table with triggers where impact tremors or goblin bombardment or something. So let's talk about the deck. Okay. Now, you've got a giant dragon that you want to cast, and you want to cast frequently, so you're going to need to have a lot of mana. So let's talk about the ramp package first, because the ramp package is significant, okay? Whereas some of my decks, I only have a few little ramp pieces. This one, there's no doubt, ramp is integral. So we have a Sol Ring. Can't go wrong with Sol Ring. Everyone needs to have it, so Sol Ring. All right, next, we're going to have, we have a Mind Stone. All right, this little artifact here. All right, Mind Stone. We have an Abundant Growth. This is a nice little one, a single mana for an enchantment that enchants a land. You draw a card when you do, so it cantrips. An enchanted land has tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So when you tap that land, you actually get 2 mana. Perfect. We have a Nature's Lore. So 1 and a green, search your library for a forest card, put that card on the battlefield, then shuffle. Notice it's not tapped, right? So that's pretty handy there too. All right, so we also have things like you happen upon a glade. So this is 2 and a green for an instant. Choose 1. Journey on. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Or you can make camp, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. The versatility on this is something I've appreciated, and it's instant speed. So you can not quite cultivate, but you can go and get the lands you need at instant speed, or you can go and regrow a permanent, probably your commander. We have a Utopia Sprawl. So single green, you have to enchant a forest. As Utopia Sprawl enters a color, choose a color. When enchanted forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 additional mana of any color, of the chosen color. Sorry. So again, similar to Abundant Growth, helps you ramp. Okay. We have an Arbor Elf. We have an Arbor Elf that goes and untaps target forest. Okay, handy. We have a Rampant Growth. Rampant Growth, 1 in a green, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, shuffle your library afterwards. Okay, we have a Crop Rotation. So this is one of our game changers in this list. As an additional cost to cast this, sacrifice a land. Search your library for a land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. We'll talk about what we're going to fetch with this one, but it's super good. It'll fix your colors at a minimum. At best, it's going to find you something pretty awesome. Then we have an Ignoble Hierarch. So this is a mana dork, so a single green. Taps to add a black, a red, or a green. It's a 0/1, but it also has Exalted. The Exalted is not really a big deal, but it's kind of an added boon. All right? We have a Thunderscape Familiar. I really like this card. So 1 and a red for a 1/1 with first strike. Black and green spells you play cost 1 less to play. So that's going to help me reduce the cost on my Prosh. All right, we have a Dark Ritual. 1 black to add 3. We have an Infernal Plunge, just 1 red to add 3 red, but you also have to sack a creature. And then we've got some ways to tap our creatures to make extra mana. So Cryptolith Rite and Enduring Vitality both have creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. These are super integral to this strategy because you make so many tokens with Prossh once you can get it online. So you got a pretty robust package of ramp to try and make sure that you can get your Prossh into play. All right? Now, once you have Prossh in play, you are going to make a whole bunch of Kobold tokens to go along with it. And so there's a couple of other things that we're going to do with that. Okay? So the first one is we're going to have Chatterfang. So Chatterfang is 2 and a green for a 3/3 legendary creature of a forest walk. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel tokens are created instead. And a black, sacrifice X squirrels, target creature gets plus X, minus X until end of turn. I'm playing this just to simply make more bodies. I want more things, more fodder that I can then use. Okay? So tap them to make mana or do other things. We have a Vivian, Champion of the Wild. So 2 and a green for a 4 loyalty walker. And says you may cast creature spells as if they had flash. This is super key because you don't want to run your Prossh in regular sorcerer speed if you can help it, because you're going to run right into removal and all sorts of stuff. So if you can get it into play and then at flash speed, away we go. Enduring Courage, 2 red for a 3/3 enchantment creature. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. When Enduring Courage dies, if it was a creature returned to the battlefield under its owner's control, it's an enchantment. This is super key because when Prossh enters the battlefield, it's going to make a whole bunch of Kobold tokens. And now they're all going to be 2/1s. If you get enough of those going, you're going to be able to generate some pretty good abuse, and your opponents are going to be pretty looking out. It also lets your dragon attack with haste, which if you need to just beat down, away we go. We have an Oliphant. So Oliphant is a 5 and a red for a 6/4 with trample. Whenever creature Oliphant attacks, another target creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample. The trample is important, but I like this for the mountain cycling to make sure that I hit my mana drop. So maybe it should have been my ramp package. I don't know. All right. Elvish Spirit Guide. So this one again just makes a green mana. I can exile it, or it's a creature. Usually I'm exiling it. We have a Dual Caster Mage. So this is going to allow us to copy target instant sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. All right, copying things is good. And then last but not least, we have Lagamo's Hand of Hatred. This one's interesting. So a black and a red for a 1/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Tap, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Activate only if 5 or more creatures died this turn. All right, so Prossh has a sacrifice method right on it. So if you make a bunch of kobolds with Prossh and you have Lagamos on the battlefield, if you sack a bunch of kobolds, you can tap this to tutor through your deck and find something cool. That to me suggests there's a lot of value associated with this particular card in a way that most people I have not seen play Lagamos. Most people play it as a body that's every turn that they have to use, but I'm looking at it as a tutor ability if I can get it into play. All right, next, how are we going to be drawing some cards? All right, we need to draw cards to make sure we don't run out of stuff to do. First off, we have Faithless Looting. Single red, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. And flashback for 2 and a red. This is not true card advantage gained, but it is card filtering, and it is super important to make sure you find the things you need to find. All right, I don't play a lot of tutors in this deck, which is why it's a bracket 3. But I need to find the key components, so Faithless Looting is a great way to do that. Another way to do that is to sacrifice one of those derpy creatures we have, or a kobold with Village Rites. A single black for an instant. Additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. All right, this works for me. We have a Beast Whisperer. So 2 green for a 2/3. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. I've got plenty of creatures in this list. If nothing else, if just me recasting my commander, all right? We have a Moldervine Reclamation, so 3 black-green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Well, again, Prossh has got a way for me to sacrifice the kobolds built right into it, so if nothing else, I sacrifice my kobolds to Prossh, draw cards, gain life, and hopefully find the fuel I need to keep going. All right, we have a Skull Muncher. So this is 4 and a green for a 3/3 creature elemental with Devour 1. When Skull Muncher enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature it devoured. So a Devour ability allows you to sacrifice creatures to it, and then you can draw cards. So if you have creatures that you no longer need, maybe they're squirrel tokens, maybe Chatterfang, maybe they're kobolds, who knows? This is going to allow you to turn those into cards when it comes down and make a scary big creature. We have a Skull Clamp. This is perhaps one of the best sort of things to see and makes people very scared when you play it. 1 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1 plus a -1. Whenever an equipped creature is put into a graveyard, draw 2 cards and equips for a single 1. So this turns all your kobolds into pay 1, equip it, sack the creature, draw 2 cards. And that's going to make sure that you do not run out of gas and you find the things you need. Then we have a Night's Whisper. You draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. Super handy in the early game, just to find what you need. We have a Fecundity. This card I really, really enjoy. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, that creature's controller may draw a card. Now, it is symmetrical, and so your opponents may be prepared to let this sit on the table. But when you sacrifice creatures, even just with Prossh, and we'll talk about some of the other ways we have to sack things, Fecundity is going to draw you a ton of cards, and you're going to be looking to find the things you need. And last but not least, we have another game changer. We have Gamble. So search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, discard a card at random, and shuffle. This could come back and bite you in the butt, but usually it's a pretty powerful tool to go and get the thing you need. All right, but it is a game changer, so that's game changer number 2. All right, let's talk about how we're sacrificing things. Okay, so I've talked now a number of times about sacrificing kobolds, and Prossh will let you do it, but you don't really want to use Prossh. So we've got a couple of ways to do it. The first way is we've got some altars. All right, so we have altars like Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. So Phyrexian Altar reads sacrifice a creature, add 1 mana of any color. And the Ashnod's Altar is 3 mana, sacrifice a creature to add 2 colorless. So between the two of them, they're free sacrifice outlets. They are like guaranteed combo cards. If everybody sees these, they go, whoa, we got to be very alert to what's happening next. And it's really no surprise, because when Proch comes down, you can sack the tokens to make enough mana to recast it and continue to chain off, right? So it's really very straightforward to make these 2 cards go burr and make your opponents lose out. Okay, so those 2 are great targets. Next, we have Food Chain, and we have consequently his bust buddy Squee. So 2 and a green, exile a creature card. Add X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana cost. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. Okay, so Squee then says 1 red for a 2/1. You may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. So these go hand in hand. Food Chain allows you to make infinite mana by repeatedly sacrificing Squee to Food Chain to make an absurd amount of mana, which then, once you've made an infinite amount of mana, you can start sacrificing Prossh to it and the kobolds, and next thing you know, you can cast your Prossh over and over and over and over again to kill the table. There's a bunch of different ways to do that, so let's talk about how we're going to utilize all those things and all those bodies coming into play with Prossh when we make all those kobolds. First one is we have Mayhem Devil. All right, whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target. So if you have Food Chain or you have the altars in play, you're going to be able to have sacrifice things, and away we go. All right, so it's going to deal 1 damage. You're going to ping the table down. Blood Artist. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Again, you start sacrificing things to your altars or to Food Chain, and away we go. Poison Tip Archer. So this is a 2/3 for 2 black-green with Reach and Death Touch. Whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. All right, so you start sacrificing things, they start dying. Next thing you know, your opponent's quickly dead too. Garna, Blood Fist of Keld. So this is 1 black-red for a 4/3 legendary creature. Whenever another creature you control dies, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, Garna Blood Fist of Keld deals 1 damage to each opponent. I'm not usually attacking with the kobolds. I'm usually draining my opponent with Garna. All right, we have a Nadir's Nightblade, 2 and a black for a 1/3. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So those kobold tokens or the squirrel tokens, when they die, Nadir loves it. Goblin Bombardment. Sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. So now we have another sacrifice outlet, and this time we're just straight up dealing damage. If you have Goblin Bombardment and Nadir's Nightblade, you're going to be double tapping your opponents pretty quickly. Yawgmoth, Thrawn Physician. 2 black for a 2/4 legendary creature. Protection from humans. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. Or black, discard a card, proliferate. Again, so you have a sack outlet. Yes, you got to pay life, but you probably have a Blood Artist or some other effect on the table. Jury, Master of the Review. Black-red for a 1/1 legendary creature. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Jury, Master of the Review. When Jury dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So, you sack a bunch of things, you make Jury really big, and then you sack Jury, and then they're going to get smashed in the face for a whole bunch. Alright, we have a Witty Roastmaster. So this is a 2 and a red for a 3/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this is a little bit different. So this is when the kobolds enter into play. So you've made infinite mana with your altars or with your food chain, and now they're coming into play over and over and over again. Witty Roastmaster is going to ping them down. Impact Tremors is the other ability on this one. So 1 and a red. Same thing. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremor deals 1 damage to each opponent. Now, let's say that you don't have one of those, but you do have a Dictative Erebos on the battlefield. So 3 black for an enchantment with Flash. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. This is a surefire way to just clear the board of all the things so your opponents don't have anything. Alright, we have a Bastion of Remembrance. So 2 and a black. When Bastion of Remembrance enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Again, back to the sacrifice aristocratic trigger. And then Mahadi Emporium Master. 1 black-red for a 3/3 legendary creature, Cat Devil. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So if you can loop Prossh a bunch of times and make mana, maybe you don't have a Witty Roastmaster, maybe you don't have an Impact Tremors, maybe you don't have a Goblin Bombardment, but you've got a way to make mana. You can make a ridiculous amount of treasure at the end of your turn to power off and power up the game for next turn. Okay? All those are super good cards to go with your Prossh. But you want to run it. You don't want. Oh, I missed one here. I missed Warren Soul Trader. So Warren Soul Trader, 2 and a black. Zombie Goblin Wizard for a 3/3. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. So with Chatterfang or with the Nadir Nightblade, you're going to be making all sorts of bodies. You can make all sorts of treasures, and you're going to be able to power off and continue to just churn through your deck to make sure that you can kill your opponents. All right, let's talk about some ways we have to make sure that our Prossh doesn't die. All right, we really don't want to lose Prossh except on our terms. So let's talk about how we're doing that. All right, so first off, we've got a Golgari Charm. So Golgari Charm is super handy. So all creatures is black and a green. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. All right, I don't really care, but sure. Destroy target enchantment. That is surprisingly relevant. Or regenerate each creature you control. That one is my favorite, and I keep it in my hand oftentimes for that mode, but sometimes the enchantment killing is important. We have a Culling Ritual. So 2 black-green. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. So this doesn't necessarily protect my Prossh, but it definitely clears up my opponent's boards and makes sure that they don't really get an opportunity, and I can then power up and recast my Prossh if it's been killed. We have a Dread Return, so 2 black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield and flashback sacrifice 3 creatures. Well, for starters, if I have this and I need to get, let's say I need to get my Warren Soul Trader back out of my graveyard, I can go sack the Kobold tokens to get it back, and I don't really mind. But if there's a key creature that's in my graveyard that I need back to complete my combo kill, my creature combo, then I can do that. And it even and the fact that it's flashback is terrific. All right, we have an Abrupt Decay, so 1 in a black. It can't be countered. Destroy target non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less. In 2025 or now 2026, the number of 3 mana or less plays that need to be killed is growing every turn or every new set, so that's increasingly valid. Tamiyo Safekeeping, a single green, target creature, target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible at the end of turn, you gain 2 life. This is super key. If I don't really want my Prossh to go away yet, I can protect it. If there's another creature like the Soul Trader, I can protect it. It's just a really flexible, versatile piece of protection that I don't usually run in many of my decks, but in this one I do. Rakdos joins up, so 3 black-red. When Rakdos joins up, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever a legendary creature you control dies, Rakdos joins up, deals damage equal to that creature's power to target opponent. Well, so the first part is a reanimation spell where you're going to be able to get that key creature back, maybe that Warren Soul Trader. But then when you if you can get your sacrifice triggers online, so you get your food chain or your altar, and then you can start sacking Prossh, then you're going to be able to dome your opponent for tons of damage, and they're going to be really, really frustrated by that card. All right? We've got a Feed the Swarm, so 1 and a black. The sorcery, destroy target creature or enchantment. You lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. Okay, flexible piece of removal, I like it. Chaos Warp, same sort of thing. It allows you to deal with anything, and particularly enchantments, because this deck struggles with that, being Jund colored. Tragic Slip, single black. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. If it's morbid, meaning if a creature has died this turn, target creature gets -13/-13. I like this for indestructible creatures, since I have a bunch of tokens that I can sack at will. This is probably going to be turned on for its morbid, meaning I can shrink indestructible or gods or things of that nature. All right, then we have a Reaping the Graves. So 2 in the black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand as a storm count. So you can cast a bunch of creatures and sack them and sack them and cast them and sack them and cast them. And then if you need to go and get a key piece back, you can use this to help go and storm, maybe get 2 or 3 of them back. That's going to allow you to end the game. And then we have a body count. Same sort of thing. 3 in a black for instant. Spectacle for a single black. Draw a card for each creature that died under your control this turn. This could be, you have to be careful that you don't deck yourself with this. But yeah, this is a really useful ability to go and make sure that you can keep cards drawn. All right, then we have some other value pieces over here that I want to talk about. Okay. So first off, we have Rhythm of the Wild. So 1 red, green for an enchantment. Creature spells you control can't be countered. This is huge. If you can resolve this and make sure that your Prossh or any of your other things don't get countered, the blue players at your table are going to hate you. So, and then non-token creatures you control have Riot, meaning they can either have haste or a +1/+1 counter on them. Haste is way more useful in Commander than a +1/+1 counter, but super useful card. Riveteer's Ascendancy, black, red, green. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may return target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Do this only once each turn. So that leads us to where you sack Prossh to something to go and get the Warren Soul Trader back into play. And this is Warren Soul Trader or one of the other, like a poison type archer or something, don't really care if your creature is tapped. You're going to be able to continue to chain off, and yes, it will not find you more pieces, but it's going to make sure that you get the thing you want back on the battlefield, back in play. All right? We have a doubling season. So 4 and a green. Enchantment. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. If an effect would put 1 or more counters on a permanent you control, it puts twice that many on those counters on that permanent instead. This is so that when Proch starts making kobolds, that I can make twice the number of kobolds to make sure that I have enough bodies to sacrifice to my altars, sacrifice to my Warren Soul Traders, sacrifice to my to whatever I need to sacrifice it to. And it gets very silly very quickly with doubling season. I don't usually play this in too many of my decks, but this seems like a good place to play it. Then we have a Growing Rites of Itlimoc. So Growing Rites of Itlimoc, 2 and a green. It's an enchantment. When Growing Rites of Itlimoc enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them, put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform Growing Rites of Itlimoc. And it transforms into one of my favorite cards ever. It's Itlimoc, Cradle of the Sun. So you can tap it to add a green, or tap it to add green for each creature you control. Well, Prosh is going to make a bunch of kobolds, and then you're going to be able to tap your Itlimoc for a whole bunch of green mana, and hopefully allow you to continue to chain off. Okay, that's the idea. And last but not least, we have the best target for our crop rotation. We have 3-Tree City. So as 3-Tree City enters, choose a creature type. So you're usually picking kobolds here, which is actually strange enough. But tap to add colors, or 2 in a tap, choose a color. Add an amount of mana of that color equal to the number of creatures you control of the chosen type. So Prossh is going to come down. 3-Tree City is going to allow you to tap to make a whole lot of mana. And the best part is your crop rotation can allow you to go and find it, put it into play, so that you can allow it to carry on. So it's kind of like in the same vein as like a Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, but it's a little bit different. All right. So that's the deck. All right. It is very combo heavy. There is a bunch of combo lines that you can trip over in this one, and that if your opponents aren't ready for it, they may find it very frustrating, which is why I sort of put this bracket 3, because it only has the 2 game changers. So it's definitely, it still fits in bracket 3, but because of the fact it stumbles onto these combos with alarming regularity, if your opponents aren't prepped to play a combo heavy deck, they might find it very frustrating to play against this and get really salty with you. So it could play a bracket 4, where people are playing speedy combos. This is a 6 mana commander that enables your combo, so it's not particularly fast unless you can ramp out very, very vigorously. But it is a combo deck that your opponents may be a little bit frustrated. Yes, you have the plan where you can beat down with Prosh, but that's not really the primary factor, the primary win condition of this particular deck. The primary win condition is, and unequivocally is, go and get the combo piece and win the game with the combo. All right, so that's the deck. This version I have in front of you is a little bit more expensive. It's like $550. You can do more expensive things by putting expensive lands in there. I don't run original dual lands, although you could. That would push the price of the deck up quite a bit. There's some other fast ramp pieces you could put into the deck, but as it is about $550, it's not cheap, but again, not the craziest of decks out there. All right, that's the deck. Let me know down below if you like what you see, and if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. I try and put out regular deck techs for things that I'm running, things that I'm building, so you guys can see what the average Magic player could be assembling. All right. Also, we're going to be recording some new content with Pete here shortly, so listen up for that. So you can find us. The link to our podcast is available down below as well. And if you want to see the deck list in its entirety, you can see it on Moxfield. The link to it is down below as well, and you can go and check it out there, in addition to all of the other decks that I have brewed and shown on this channel. All right, thanks very much, everybody. Have yourselves a great start to 2026, and I'll be back again soon with yet another deck tech. Catch you later. Peace.